listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We can be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring the Michael Dilemma. Angels. An interesting topic that few seem to agree on. There are male angels, female angels, guardian angels, fallen angels, archangels, and the list goes on. Some say angels have never been incarnate, while others claim we become angels when we die, or even while alive. While yet others say they do not exist at all, some magical workers believe to say the name of an angel will conjure them, much like a spell. Some scholars claim they're only archetypical concepts, and clergy of every faith seem to have a different take on them depending on the teachings of their sect. Even my original teacher shared seemingly contradictory information about angels whenever I asked him about them, which was frequently. As a shamanic practitioner, I work with angels often, yet I do not claim to understand them, what they do, or what they are. They just show up in my journeys from time to help with the healing. While I did have first-hand experience with an angel as a child, I still remember the first time one showed up on a shamanic journey in my adulthood. He was one scary dude with a vicious-looking sword, and were it not for the wings, I probably would have been scared senseless. Early on in my practice, I was working with a gentleman who had quite a bit of enmeshment going on with people in his life. People around him tended to take advantage of him, and once they hooked on, they would not go away. He was being drained on all fronts, and his health was failing rapidly. I went into Journey on his behalf, following my normal protocol, and saw my client in Journey space with all sorts of hoses that I've later come to know as cords attached to him at one end and to other people at the other. I could see his energy was being siphoned off through the cords as he was diminishing, while the other people became overbloated. I knew this was simply a metaphor to show me what was taking place at the quantum level of my client's life. I wonder what I'm supposed to do with this, I was thinking to myself when suddenly the scary dude showed up, swinging his sword. At first, I thought he was going to go for my head, so I ducked to watch him start cutting the cords. "Silly girl," he said in a booming voice. "Don't just hunker down there. I cut, you seal. That's the way this works." "How do I seal?" I whimpered. "With the magic at your hands. Don't they teach you shadow walkers anything anymore?" "Apparently not enough," I muttered, and proceeded to seal the lobbed-off ends of the cord with the magical blue fire that suddenly appeared in my hands. Now, what was really going on there? The shamanic journey is much like a self-induced interactive dream. I've come to see things that show up on Journey as metaphors representing the frequency corrections that take place at the quantum level when I work. Sounds logical, and at one level I know it to be true, but there was a catch. At the time, I didn't know one angel from another. I shared the description of my fierce sword-wielding, be-winged helper with a friend that specialized in angels, and was informed that I had just had a close encounter of the third kind with Archangel Michael. This in itself would not have been so amazing, as I would have thought that my client was familiar with Michael, and that's why he showed up as a metaphor. Because I'm working in my client's space, it's not uncommon for metaphors familiar only to my clients to show up on a journey done on their behalf. Yet, when I relayed the journey to my client, he was as baffled as I, and professed total ignorance of angels. Since that time, Archangel Michael has frequented my journeys whenever cords need to be cut, among other things, and has actually taken it upon himself to train me how to work with him. Now, that's pretty interactive for a metaphor. My guest this hour is Tanya Carroll Richardson, author of several books on angels and spirit guardians. Her latest release, Angel Insights, Inspiring Messages from Ways to Connect to and connect with your spiritual guardians. After a short break, we'll introduce Tanya and explore her views on angels, spiritual guardians, and personal growth. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Visit our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information, and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Tanya Carroll Richardson, author of Angel Insights, Inspiring Messages from and Ways to Connect with Your Spiritual Guardians. Tanya is a self-improvement spiritual author and a professional intuitive who's passionate about angels, beauty, and nature. She's been writing about angels and interviewing people about their encounters with angels for over a decade. Tanya is also the author of Heaven on Earth, a guided journal for creating your own divine paradise, and her upcoming title, Forever in My Heart, a grief journal to be released in November of 2016. Learn more about Tanya's private angel readings or follow her on social media by visiting www.tanyarichardson.com. Tanya, thank you so much for joining us on the Science of Magic.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it should be a fun hour. Hopefully you can shed some light on angels and enlighten me at least. So,
sure. Well, it sounds like you had a wonderful
professional intuitive. How did you come to be one?
I came to be one just by realizing as a child that I was highly intuitive, and as an adult I studied intuition, I played with it, I grew it, and I came to the point with it where I was using it so much in my writing that I realized I felt a calling that I needed to use this in sessions to help other people. So a few years ago I started doing formal sessions with clients, and the reaction was so amazing. I loved doing it. They got so much from the sessions that I knew immediately this was something I had to keep going with.
So did you, were you able to find some training for your gift?
The training all came from me, from basically reading getting myself more educated about my gift, and then understanding I do have the 4 clairs. There are, which you're probably familiar with, and some of your audience members are familiar with. Clairaudience is where you hear voices. Clairvoyance is where you get images in your mind's eye. Claircognizance is where you have the ability to understand complex situations instantly, like a download from heaven. And then clairsentience is the most common clair, and that is where you get intuitive information through feeling. Often it's a gut instinct. The hairs on your arms stand on end. You can sense the energy of other people, things like that. So because I had all of those, and because I was communing with angels and ascended masters on a regular basis and writing my books, I thought, and I was also starting to get intuitive information about people just by hearing their name, just by shaking their hand, just by seeing them in the newspaper, and I thought, this is something that Spirit wants me to share with people.
So that seems a little invasive that you just get information about people just by being around them. Have you figured out a way to filter that so you don't get bombarded with it all the time?
Yeah, and there's a lot about I have a lot about intuition in the book, and there's a lot to educate yourself about, and a lot about setting boundaries and learning how to turn it on and off a bit, or at least set some energy boundaries around yourself. So I don't just walk down the street, for example, and have, messages being, flying at me. People always say, do you have to ask to get it? Do you have to turn it on and off? I always have it on, but when I sit down with a client on the phone and start a session, then I'm really what I call in the pocket, and then the messages just really start coming. But there are times when a session will end and maybe a departed loved one occasionally will want to keep talking, and I have a mental image of a red phone in my mind, and I put the phone on the receiver and I say, the session's over, and, your loved one is going to be fine, and we can talk again another time, but now this is done. So there's ways that you can kind of, shut it down, or just say, okay, it's enough for right now,
Yeah, I know that's always been the challenge for me, is walking down the street and going, I didn't need to know that about that person. So it's been a full-time,
right.
TMI, it's been a full-time job for me to learn to afford people their privacy. Are you able to do that as well?
Yeah, I definitely would never want to eavesdrop on someone, and it's not the kind of thing where if you see me at a party, I'm suddenly reading your thoughts. It's not that kind of thing at all. But sometimes, as you said, you will meet someone and get, a voice telling you something, or a flash of a vision, and you suddenly understand something about them, maybe something they're struggling with, or a question that they have, or an intense emotion they're dealing with, and you suddenly get that information. So it's something that I would never discuss with a person unless they came to me and wanted to discuss it with me. So I would never say, oh, Gwilda, I get the feeling that X, Y, and Z, if someone comes to me and wants to do a session, that's where that information is appropriate to share. Otherwise, like you said, it would be eavesdropping, but, we're not mind readers, so people don't have to, steer clear of us on the street and think that we know everything about them.
That's a good thing, right? It could be a little alienating.
Definitely.
You write about angels and spirit guardians. Where do you get your information?
I get my information. Angels have been something that I've been interested in for a long time, and I've been writing about them and interviewing people about them for a long time, and I use them so much in my sessions. Angels are a huge part of every intuitive and every mystic, as you know, has a different practice. And part of what makes my sessions unique with people is that angels really do come forward in a session and say, I want to work with this person. Please assign me to this person and tell them I'm going to be in their life helping them with something specific. So I work with angels that way. I get a lot of information that way. And because they're such a fascinating subject to me, I'm always reading about them, learning about them. I communicate with angels all day long. I use them in my sessions. So I would say I feel confident calling myself an angel expert, but I do think there's always more to learn. It's a subject with an infinite amount to teach us, and I enjoy hearing from other angel experts as well.
So how do you know who you're talking to?
Yeah, that's very interesting, and this is something that when I try and explain it, it can really stump other people, and you have to understand that intuition really comes on a scale. And some people are incredibly highly intuitive. Some people are kind of more in the middle where they do sense things. They get messages from spirit sometimes. Maybe they're clairsentients and they really feel things deeply. And then there are people who are just naturally not very intuitive. And we can all we can all grow our intuition and learn about it and hone it, and we can all take our intuition to another level. But for people that are highly intuitive or maybe somewhere in that middle ground, it is possible to start being able to discern where you're getting your messages from. And that, when I had always heard what I used to call my voice, and I just knew it was a voice, and I knew that it was the voice of spirit. It might be angels, it might be whomever. I just called it my little voice. And then about 10 years ago, I read a really fascinating book by a teacher named Sonia Cochette, who's very famous, and she wrote a book called Ask Your Guides. And in the book, she said that over time, if you play with it, you will be able to discern who is speaking to you. Is an ascended master like Jesus speaking to you? Is it a parted loved one speaking to you? Is a guardian angel speaking to you? And it's actually really helpful, especially as a professional intuitive, to be able to have that information, because then I can tell a client, oh, this is a message coming from your departed loved one, or this is a message from Archangel Michael, this is a message from Jesus. He wants you to know this about this situation. So it's very valuable information to have.
Yes, I would think so. So if you're talking to someone that is departed, do you have a way of telling if they've crossed to the other side and have come back as a helper, or if they're actually a haunting spirit?
Well, I think normally when people touch base with me, they have crossed to the other side, and usually, not always, those people that have crossed to the other side and are still wanting to communicate with the person are probably what we call a spirit guide. There's someone who has crossed over that was human, and now they've chosen to kind of keep an eye on this loved one who's still on Earth and kind of be in their life and kind of watch out for them and look out for them. I have had sessions with people who have told me that they feel like they have a haunting in their house. I don't call those ghosts. I call those lost souls, because they really are souls that just don't know how to transition to the other side, or they're scared about transitioning to the other side. And if a client feels like that's the case, then I have a special section of angels I call the ghost-busting angels that come in and help me, and we can actually, they're fabulous and they're very real, and we have really moved spirits out of homes and very quickly, and they come in and they help move that spirit, not out, not like putting it out on the street, but in a very loving way, moving that spirit into the light, and so they can be where they need to be, which is in heaven.
Gotcha. That's pretty fascinating. Do you do a lot of that kind of work?
I've gotten a couple of those clients this year, and it's been really rewarding, because it was actually both cases that I got this year about it were very fascinating, because both people who were experiencing this in their homes were naturally terrified about it. All they knew was there was some, entity that was kind of messing with them, turning the lights on and off, turning the TV on and off. And in some cases where there were people in the house that were very intuitive, they were actually, interacting in even more invasive ways with the people in the house. So it was really great to set their minds at ease and just say, look, this is just mischievous stuff. They're not trying to harm you. And really, these aren't bad spirits. These are just spirits who are angry and confused. And once we looked at them through the lens of love as these angry spirits who were confused and needed our help, it was so healing for the clients, and it shifted everything about the situation. It made it so much easier for us to call in the angels and move the spirit along to heaven when we communicated with the spirit and said, hey, we're not trying to hurt you. We're not trying to put you out on the street. We know you're confused and angry, and we want to help.
That is so important, because, if we polarize and battle things, it drops our frequency, and I found that then interferes with our ability to connect with spirit and commune and get the help we need. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right with that. It's true. And I find a lot in the sessions, which you might find with your clients, often it's about how you look at a situation. And one thing that I do in every session with a client is the angels give me information about how the client can look at a situation, a relationship, a challenge in their life from a new angle. And that's just mind-blowing for the client. Once they can look at it from a different angle, then suddenly things shift on their own, and they also are aware of the action steps they need to take to change the situation. But it really often is how you're looking at a situation.
It's amazing what reframing can do, and how just by simple reframing, how we are relating to a situation can absolutely transform the situation for the better. So we're going to have to take a break, Tanya. We'll meet you again on the other side here. We'll return to our discussion after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. You want to hear more? Previous broadcasts of innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Thomas Jefferson was a Burgess of 27 when he met Martha Wales Skelton, a 22-year-old widowed heiress who was fondly called Patty by her family. They were married on January the 1st, 1772, and they took up residence in a cabin on the building site on top of a Virginia mountain that Thomas had named Monticello. As Thomas and Patty slowly built their first version of the great house at Monticello, the Revolutionary War was heating up. Patty, with difficulty, bore 5 children, but only 2 girls survived. Thomas's political career developed to the point where he was often away from home, but after he authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, he resolved never again to leave his wife. He was elected the governor of Virginia, just as that state became the Revolution's last battleground. The Revolutionary War ended in 1781, and Thomas gladly retired altogether to my family, my farm, and my books. But Patty continued to want to bear her treasured husband a son, and late in the summer of 1782, she died of kidney failure at the age of 33, 4 months after having borne yet another girl. Thomas was so devastated by her death that he never remarried. He mourned her for the rest of his life, even as he helped to frame the peace in France and then became the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, and the third President of the United States. This story is true. Thomas Jefferson was such an obsessive letter writer and record keeper that we know where he was and what he was doing nearly every day of his adult life. Every significant thing he says in My Thomas comes from his contemporary writings. My Thomas by Roberta Grimes is now available at Barnes & Noble, Costco, Target, Books A Million, Hudson Booksellers, Kmart, Walmart, Sam's Club, Walgreens, CVS, and online at Amazon.com. You can visit Roberta Grimes online at www.robertagrimes.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common: They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerreonian intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. What happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Annie Callahan, dedicated to negotiating a position for Earth within the Daguerreonian Coalition, had trained for 3 years to become an Earth ambassador. Yet, the very eve of her arrival at the capital ruling planet, she is claimed as destined mate to an oversized, mating-maddened vamp who swears he will never release her. Lord Aztaran, king of the Macian sector, has waited over 900 years for his destined mate. Having found her as an alpha vamp, he is unable to relinquish Annie, virtually holding her hostage until he can claim her. Yet Macians cannot survive without their mate's love. How could he strip her of her citizenship, her ambassadorship, and her freedom and expect to win her heart? With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is the latest book in this exciting series, The Daguerreonian Chronicles, guaranteed to keep readers coming back for more. With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is available on Amazon.com and KahiraO'Donnell.com.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. You can always visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Tanya Richardson, author of Angel Insights, Inspiring Messages from and Ways to Connect with Your Spirit Guardians. Her website, www.tanyarichandson.com. Tanya, would you enlighten us as to what kind of angels there are?
Sure, and I think there are lots of different types of angels. I concentrate mainly on three main groups in my book that I think are most helpful. The first type of angel is guardian angels. Those are ones that we're usually most familiar with because culturally that's the type of angel we always hear about, the guardian angel. I do explain in my book that you have more than one guardian angel, and your guardian angels have names, they have personalities, so that's a really fascinating subject and a very intimate relationship. It's already an intimate relationship, but it can become even more intimate and dynamic if you get to know your guardian angels and start working with them. The second type that I talk about in the book are archangels, which a lot of people of faith are also familiar with. And in the book, we go through and talk about how each archangel has a different specialty. You can call on any of them, but if you see one that has a specialty that you think would help you, then you can call on that one specifically. And archangels, as you shared in your really powerful story there with Archangel Michael, they're very, very potent, very, very powerful angels, so they're wonderful to call on. And because of the mystery of faith, archangels can be with all people at once. So while the Archangel Michael was helping you cut the cords of your client, he could also be with many other people around the planet at the same time. So if you're thinking to yourself you're too intimidated to call on an archangel, don't be, because, again, they are benevolent spirits of love and light, but also they're never too busy for you because they can be everywhere at once, and they're hard workers and they like to work, so don't be intimidated about calling on them. Then the third type of angel that I talk about in the book are helper angels. And this is one of my favorite categories because I think they're so neat. They're basically freelance angels, and they're not assigned to anyone specifically, but they can sometimes come and assign themselves to you if they see that there's a need they think they can help fulfill. Or even more exciting, you can hire one and say, I need a helper angel to help me with this specific task. And helper angels specialize in everything under the sun. It gets very specific, just like with humans, as far as what they specialize in. You could have a healing helper angel that specializes in emotional health, that even specializes in depression. You could have a PR marketing helper angel that specializes in social media. And you can call on one of these angels to help you with a certain project or a challenge you're facing, and they really will come in and sprinkle some angel dust around and shift that situation for you. And they'll also just give you a lot of guidance about it. They'll send you people and opportunities and give you insightful thoughts about how to handle the situation.
So the ones that just kind of show up, how much does that have to do with your intent, conscious and unconscious?
That's something that we talk about a lot in the book because the key to unlocking a more dynamic relationship with the angel realm is your free will. Angels are always going to be around guiding and protecting you. Even if you don't believe in angels, they will be around guiding and protecting you. Even if you say, I don't like angels, I don't want any of this, they're still going to be around guiding and protecting you. But because we are powerful spiritual beings. Just like angels are powerful spiritual beings, humans are also very powerful spiritual beings. And we have been given the gift of free will as powerful spiritual beings. It's one of our it's our magic wand that we've been given. So when you enact your free will and ask an angel to come in and help you through prayer, through your journal, through a thought, they are given the power to come in and help you in a much more dynamic, much more dramatic way than if you don't invite them in with your free will.
Okay, so if you're consciously calling them in, you're going to get better results. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, and it's not a question of the angels loving you more if you call them in or respecting you more because you're paying attention to them. It's a question of that the angels must and do respect your free will. So if you don't ask for their help, there's going to be they'll still be able to help, but it will be a more limited way. But if you ask for them to help in a proactive free will way, they will be able to help in a much more dynamic way. And then the question becomes, once you ask an angel for help with something, then you've got to start being able to recognize their guidance. Because lots of times angels angels will come in and help shift a situation and shift energy and make changes that way, but also angels will ask you to make action steps to change something, and they'll give you intuitive guidance or send you people or opportunities, and then it's up to you to recognize, hey, this is something coming from an angel. I need to take the action step and take advantage of this opportunity, or I'm getting the repetitive thought that I need to completely change the way I'm doing my finances, and I think this is the angel's answer to my prayer for help with my finances. I need to get more organized, or I need to get a part-time job, or I need to change careers. I'm getting that repetitive thought, and I'm realizing that's the answer from the angels.
Do you also get omenology in ordinary reality that indicates your angels are speaking to you through clouds that show up or animals that show up or that sort of thing?
Sure. I think the trouble with that is it's more just a reminder of their presence, which is very powerful. If you feel like you see a feather on the ground, or people have these things that they feel are signs from their angels. And, of course, angels could send you synchronicities just like constantly seeing the number 444, which is an angel number, or constantly seeing pictures of angels, or constantly seeing the word angel somewhere. And that's very powerful, but it's basically just a reminder that your angels are with you and to call on them for help. But I think even more powerful are the synchronicities where they send you the same book over and over. You see it at the stores. Your friend recommends it. You see it in the free bin at work. And then when you open up and read the book, you realize, oh my gosh, there's something in here that's really speaking to me about a problem I'm having, and the angels wanted me to read this book. That's why they sent me that synchronicity over and over.
Yes, I've actually seen that happen. One of my clients had these horrific headaches, and he was kind of directed to walk into a New Age bookstore, and he picked up a book, and he opened it up, and the first chapter was initiatory illness. So it really gave him some insight as to what he was dealing with. How many archangels are there?
There are a lot of archangels. In the book I talk about several, and it's debatable how many archangels are there. I don't necessarily follow everything. I'm not Christian. I'm non-denominational, and I believe angels are non-denominational as well. So some people will say, oh, there's only as many archangels that are around in the Bible, and then other people say, oh, no, there's many more. So I talk about a lot of them. I talk about several in the book. There's a long list, but there are people who might say, oh, I don't know about some of those, or there are other people who would say, there's even more than that. But I talked about the main ones you're usually used to hearing about: Archangel Ariel, Shamuel, Gabriel, Uriel, Michael, Raphael. It's a great list, and the wonderful thing about it is once you get the book and read through those, once you familiarize yourself with the archangels, and I think you'll get an intuitive hunch if you look through that list, you'll get a couple that will pop out to you and you'll feel like, I'm really drawn to this one, and that's a good sign that you should work with that one. And each archangel in the book, we tell you what their specialty or their strength is. So with Archangel Michael, one of the big things, he's got his sword of light, so he's excellent at cord cutting, and he's also really just a protector. He's there to give us courage to face things we feel like we can't face. He's there to hold our hand when we're feeling lonely. He's there to protect us when we're scared. If I have a client who feels like they do have maybe a wandering spirit in the home, I call in Archangel Michael and I say, he's going to be kind of walking around the house as a sentry at night to guard it, to make sure that everything's safe. And that gives the client a huge amount of feeling of safety and peace, because he really will be. It's no joke, and he's a very powerful presence, as you discovered yourself.
Yes, it's certainly somebody you want at your back and not against you, I would have to say.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because it brings up an interesting point. Sometimes, when you work with an angel, even if you might call in Archangel Michael, say, you're doing a guided meditation or you're praying and you call him in, you might feel, an energy shift in the room, a very powerful one. And sometimes even just that energy shift can be intimidating, because if you're sensitive to energy, you will feel a very powerful energy shift. And I think sometimes when people do see an angel with in something closer to a divine state, like with wings or something like what you saw, their initial reaction is fear, because you can sense just how powerful that being is, and it's very intimidating.
Absolutely. It can be intimidating. You know, Tanya, we're going to have to take another break. We'll be back on the flip side of this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to our world. Our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our very special guest this hour is Tanya Richardson, author of Angel Insights, Inspiring Messages from and Ways to Connect with Your Spiritual Guardians. Her website is www.tanyarichardson.com. Tanya, tell us a little bit about what you do in a session. Would you mind?
Oh, no, I'd love to. It's so fun. Well, basically, before the session, I do ask the client. Usually it's very interesting. When I book a session with a client, I'll start getting information about them immediately. So I'll kind of jot down a couple notes, and then I'll ask the client, give me 2 or 3 things briefly you want to discuss. And they might say, I want to talk about how to improve my marriage, or I'm going through a job transition. And then I'll meditate on those subjects a little bit before the call. And the sessions are all an hour and a half because I like to really go deep and have plenty of time to talk to someone. And then in the beginning of the session, I share with them all the information I was given intuitively from angels and spirit about them. And, the fun thing is you often are able to guess names and dates and ages and occupations. And I think the purpose of that really is it shows the client when you can do some of that you really are tapping into something, and then they can trust it a little more. And also another thing is you're able to, in those initial notes when I talk to them, you can kind of tap into some subconscious blocks they have and patterns, maybe some wounds that need healing. Those come up. So you'll say, you'll tell them a couple of those and they'll think, oh my gosh, how did you know that was a real problem for me? Or, oh my gosh, I never realized, but you're right, I do have a block about that. Or I think I did inherit that from watching my father do that, but I've never put that together before. And then over the course of, we talk through those things, and then the client has a chance to ask more questions that we answer. Usually in a session, I would say maybe 2 or 3 angels will come forward, helper angels, usually sometimes archangels, and say that they want to work with the client to help them with a specific issue. Guardian angels will also make themselves known. Sometimes the departed loved one will come in and have some things that they want to say. And then if there is time, I like to, sometimes it can be fun to use angel oracle cards. If I have an extra 15 minutes or 20 minutes in the session, I'm usually guided to use a certain deck with each individual person. And it was funny, I had a woman who I did a reading with a while ago, and I was guided to use the mermaid deck with her. And it's an angel deck, but it has pictures of mermaids on it. And I said, I was guided to use this mermaid deck with you. And she said, you won't believe this, but I'm wearing a shirt that says off-duty mermaid. So it's really fun. So even, everything is so personalized when the angels are working with me with the client that it will even get very personal about the card deck they want me to use with the person. So, and then the great thing about the sessions is when the session is over, the healing continues because the angels not only does the client have a new way to look at their life, they've got some information about subconscious blocks they can start shifting that will change their life. They've got some information about how to navigate the future. But they've also got this team of angels who have come forward and said, I want to work with this client. And when I hang up the phone with them, those angels stick around. And they're real, they're very powerful, and they really do some heavy lifting in the client's life.
And then the more the client experiences that, the more they know they can commune with their angels and the more interactive it becomes. Is that what you find?
That's true, and I often do get follow-up emails from clients saying, "Oh, I've had an increase in synchronicities since our reading. I feel closer to my angels. I think I got a message from my angel." I get a lot of emails like that. So it is a way to connect the client. It informs them about their spiritual guidance squad, and it also helps them make a stronger connection so that they can have more intuitive guidance and more synchronicities coming to them on a daily basis.
There's a lot of power and a lot of value in that. Tanya, where can people find your books?
My book, the Angel book, Angel Insights, it comes out May 8th, so it's still a couple weeks before it releases, but we've gotten a ton of pre-orders. You can find it on Amazon. You can also find it on the Llewellyn website. If you like Llewellyn, they have great books and like to order directly from their website. It should be in Barnes & Noble when it comes out on May 8th. And my 2 guided journals, you can find my Heaven on Earth guided journal on Amazon, and Forever in My Heart is a really special journal. It's a grief journal that helps you connect with a loved one who's passed on. It helps you record memories and treasured moments with a loved one, but it also helps you connect with the loved one now in the world of spirit and send them messages and get messages back from them. It's a really special journal. That comes out in November, but it is already available for pre-order on Amazon. If you're thinking, oh, I really want that, but I don't want to forget about it, you can pre-order it now on Amazon.
Yeah, that's a lovely provision, isn't it? So can anyone access divine guidance from angels? Do you have to be intuitive?
Yes. No, and the thing is, everyone has intuition. There's no exception to that rule. there are people who are just naturally more intuitive than others, just like there are people who are naturally good at sports or they're naturally good at music. So there is kind of a scale of where you fall naturally on the intuition scale, but you can always get more in touch with your intuition. You can always improve it drastically just by learning about it, working with it. So even if you think, I don't think I'm that intuitive, the angels are telling me right now you're more intuitive than you think you are.
That's so nice to know, because I think a lot of us think, everybody else is intuitive, but I'm not necessarily. And it's just a matter of honing the skill. And like you say, some people are more gifted at it than others, just like any other skill. But to know that each of us have a way that we can connect is just so reassuring. How do you receive their messages? Do you mostly hear them?
I use the 4 clairs, and I'm very strong on all of them now. I started out being mainly clairaudient, which is where you hear the voices, and that is still very strong for me. Clairvoyance was something I experienced a bit as a child, but I never played with it. And about 4 years ago, I started getting lots of clairvoyant images, and now clairvoyance, where you get images in your mind's eye or movies or pictures that explain things, that is just as strong as my clairaudience now. And of course, I'm clairsentient, which is the most common clair, and that's where you get the feelings. You might get a gut instinct about something, or what happens to me in readings is if I say something that's very important for the client to hear, I will get chills and the hair on my arms will stand on end, and that usually happens 2 or 3 times in a reading. And when it happens, I tell the client, this is something you really need to know. So that's how clairsentience works. And then claircognizance is really useful when I'm in a reading, because that's when you get an immediate download from heaven and you're able to understand a very complex situation really quickly. And so we can be talking about someone and I'll suddenly realize that there's a relationship with their father, and I can suddenly know the backstory of it and suddenly know all the wounds it created just really quickly. So in a reading where you only have an hour and a half, it's great to be able to get those intellectual downloads from heaven.
Yeah, that's such a powerful way to be able to work with people. And I assume that you work on whatever they have intended when they come into the session, so that you're kind of aligned with the information that they're looking for at the time versus just a shotgun method.
Well, I mean, the angels will tell them things that they need to know. So when I meditate on them, I meditate on what they want me to meditate on. And, of course, during the session, they're obviously allowed and encouraged to ask questions. But there are messages the angels will give me that they need to know that might come as a shock to them, or they may think, I didn't even realize that was a big issue, or maybe they didn't want to talk about that. So it's a really good mix of both. It's what the client wants to talk about, but it's also things that the angels want to alert the client to that they may just not be aware of.
Oh, that's perfect. Time flies. Ours is gone. It's been such a wonderful time visiting with you. Thank you so much for being on our show. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge, comforted with love, and surrounded by angels.
Joined again in love to reveal the love